Hey everybody, I am Christopher Green. This is Green Wave Radio Live. We are broadcasting around the world. It is approximately 1 o'clock Arizona time, October 25th, 2012. Do you ever find yourself running around like you're a chicken with your head cut off? That's kind of how today has been for me. We've been super busy. We, of course, have 11 days before the liftoff and launch of AMTVmedia.com, our network channel. It is the most aggressive distribution network you have ever seen. And I am very excited, tremendously excited. In fact, one of the surprises is, in fact, I'll just give it away here on the air right now, Green Wave will finally be going live. So I'm really excited about this, but we're working and testing the equipment, going through the kinks, make sure everything is working, and that's all a success. Have an amazing show today. In fact, we just put out our video previewing the program. Kent Bain, author of a fantastic book. I'll be interviewing him. I have the great pleasure of interviewing him in the second hour. He was recommended. He's been recommended by a few people, actually. He's the author of the most dangerous book in the world, 9/11 is Mass Ritual. You can check it out on Amazon.com. In fact, we put a link to it if you're interested. All about 9/11 truth. In fact, Vinny Eastwood brought Kent Bain to my attention, brought the book up. In fact, I was reading bits and pieces of it before the show, and I'm going to finish the book. So we'll get his take on the occult, 9/11 truth, and how this just ties into false flag, mind control, terrorism, just terror that's being pushed and spread on the American people. You know, I put another video. We're doing a Green Wave Classic for the entire classic videos for the entire countdown. There's so much content that we've put out that I personally put out over the past 3 years, a lot of which never really saw the time of day because our audience was small when we first started. You know, maybe it only got 20, 30, 100, couple hundred views. And so I'm introducing new but really old footage to the audience. One of them we just put out titled 2013. It's got a picture of a globe, talks about how the next president will inherit the financial collapse, will inherit the next Great Depression. And this isn't rocket science. I'm not a genius. There's a reason. In fact, watch this video, because we put it out over a year and a half ago. Many of you don't know that, where I predicted quantitative easing 3, predicted that this would all come, how this ties into the election, how we're going to be fear-mongered into the next great war, how none of the stimulus, none of the bank bailouts will work. This is all just about buying more time, not for you, not for me, but for the elites in this country that are pickpocketing the dead carcass we now know as America. It's like, as I said in the film, you know, it's the equivalent of being at a funeral. You've got America's dead body. They're driving the nails into the coffin. But before doing that, they're pickpocketing the wallet of America. That's how ugly, grotesque, and evil their nature really is. And the nature of our government and the nature of our system. And it's important that we have a perspective on this. It's important that we don't lose sight of goodness in all of this. You know, I focus a lot of time deconstructing what's happening around us, deconstructing what's happening in the world today. And it's not to fearmonger you. It's not to scare the bejesus out of you. It's to show you the truth, which 9 out of 10 times is ugly. 9 out of 10 times is scary. But I don't want us to lose focus. I don't want to lose focus personally of goodness, of hope, of meaningful change, things that we are obviously not getting from the President of the United States today. We were sold a lie. It was a lie the whole time. It was a fabrication. You know, the tears that Oprah Winfrey were shedding in 2008 and the people were shedding were not real. Maybe they were coming real from a real place, from a real emotional state. The country's yearning. We were hoping. People were hoping. I knew Obama was a fraud from the get-go, but you know, people were hoping. A lot of Americans got sucked into it. I talked to a lot of people on the show that call us call into the program and say, Christopher, I voted for Obama, and now I know this guy is a criminal. I know that he is honestly out to seek and destroy. He's divisive. He's dividing the nation. And I want us to have a healthy perspective of this, because at the end of the day, we need to ask as people, as thinking, loving Americans, those of you tuning in that have a moral compass, that are focused on righteousness, that are focused, that have the presence of right versus wrong in your life, good versus evil. A lot of you have faith. A lot of you have God. A lot of you have a higher power or a spirituality. I want you to tie into that, and I really want you to listen to what it's telling you. I don't care if you're a Christian or a Catholic or a Buddhist, or it doesn't matter. You're spiritual. I want you to tune into whatever that is for you. Whatever you sense, and whatever is in your gut. Maybe it's just your gut instinct. Maybe you're an atheist. You say, Christopher, I don't believe in anything. Or you're agnostic. You say, I don't believe in anything, but I don't really know. You're the Christopher Hitchens type. It's funny how I'll see all kinds of atheists and people that I know personally that will just kind of use the Christopher Hitchens mentality as a crutch, But still, you can't ignore the spiritual nature of things, and I don't think you can ignore a higher power. I don't think you can. And I'm not necessarily, at least today, here to preach one direction or another. What I'm here to do is get you thinking, bring you the truth at all costs. That's what I've been personally doing for over 3 years now. I love what I do. I have a tremendous passion for it. I couldn't do it without our audience. I couldn't do it without you. I hope you realize how blessed I feel and how thankful I truly am for each and every one of you out there. Each and every single one of you. And just the way that it's touched my life. I mean, this is what's been amazing about the journey for me, is that it's been incredibly rewarding. It's been incredibly rewarding. We had Stefan Molyneux on a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Christopher, do you do this full time? And I said, yeah, I do. I've been doing this full time for about 3 years now. I said, you know what? That's fantastic. That's so amazing. That's awesome. He said, you'll find it's not the most financially rewarding, but it's the most rewarding thing you can do. And it's not the easy path. It's the hard path, but it's the most rewarding where it counts. And honestly, I can vouch for that, because I really do feel that way. And that's why I get excited. That's why my blood gets boiling. I feel the pressure. I like being under pressure. I feel what's coming. I know what's coming down the pike. I have that spiritual awareness. And again, I'm not a genius. I'm not a, prophet or anything like that. I'm a human being. And I sense this through my sensory perception. Everything that's coming down the pike. And what's coming down the pike here in America, and what's funny is if you watch that video, 2013, the next president will inherit the global depression, you'll see just how far ahead of the curve we were over a year ago. There's a ton of copycats now. They try to copycat, the types of things that we do, the type of things that I do. Like, they predicted this stuff. No, you didn't. You didn't predict this stuff. And it's not about predictions. It's not about the predictive nature. I talked about this on the last show. It's about awareness. It's about having a self-awareness for what's happening around us and dividing what is propaganda, what is baseless, what is useless, to what is real, what is tangible. So, of course, we're approaching the election here. It doesn't matter who the next president is. They're going to inherit the greatest calamity that the world has ever seen. And they're going to wait until the election is ironed out before ushering in that crash, before ushering in a capital market crash, a capital market disruption. People get all excited. I'm a former Wall Street guy myself. So, people get all excited when they see this little stock market moving on up. Moving on up. They think it's so great. 200 points there, 300 points there. Of course, it's a lie. It's a fabrication. It's been manipulated by quantitative easing into infinity, Operation Twist, the Federal Reserve buying $40-50 billion in additional mortgage-backed securities per month, totally destroying our currency. So it's a total lie. It's on just a bed of hot air and rising, bigger than the bubble than what we saw in 2008. But people forget. I don't forget, because I'm a former Wall Street guy type. For better or worse, that's what I did before I became a rogue media personality and told the establishment to go F itself. I'm kind of doing the symbology to the camera there. I remember the days when I'm sitting at the office, I've got 3-4 computer monitors in front of me, and I'm watching the markets burn to the ground. I'm talking 1,000-point drops out of nowhere. I'm watching major financial institutions go to zero, literally. Washington Mutual, you probably remember that. Yeah, we closed shop one day, and I checked online past after hours, and it was the government just decided randomly to not bail out Washington Mutual. We're just not going to do it for Washington. We're going to do it for Bank of America. We're going to do it for these other companies, so all the shareholders lost everything. Think about all the pensions, the retirees. I knew these people. I know these people, even to this day. Lost everything, their entire investment in these types of companies. Because, of course, the federal government had to be very selective about, who they're going to save. Basically, which special interest groups and which companies of the corporatocracy, I'm kind of jumping around on words here, they're having trouble with that word today, but which companies to save and, who's going to pay them off the most. So obviously Bank of America, it was the biggest payoff. Obviously companies like, JP Morgan Chase, Warren Buffett's Wells Fargo and Goldman Sachs, those are the crony companies. Those are the special interest groups that own the politicians. So they were saved, but everyone else was screwed. And it's amazing that through all of this, honestly, you got to hand it to these criminals. You got to hand it to them because they actually got away with it. That's a very important point I want to drive home with you because we talk a lot about, action, strategies, how to plug yourself out of the matrix, which I've personally done. I'm a living example of that. I'm not a perfect person. I don't have everything figured out, but have I plugged out of the system? You bet your ass. I don't do business with any of these scumbag companies. I don't do any business with these scumbag banks. I don't do any business with these scumbag people. They're dead to me. And I will not support them with a single dollar because you know what? You vote with your wallet every single day. So it's the little things that they're waking up to this. If everybody woke up to this at once, we're still a minority, although that's growing, it would literally destroy and put all these scumbags out of business literally by the end of the show. We've got about, an hour 45 left. They would be done by the end of the show. People just took their money out, said, you know what, I'm not going to do business with Wells Fargo. I'm not going to do business with XYZ because you know what, they're scumbags. They've pickpocketed America. They stole $15 trillion. That's the number, $15 trillion just in 2008 alone. Okay, that doesn't include the trillions of dollars since then and all the new quantitative easing projects. Notice how notice how Helicopter Ben has been carefully displaced out of the debates. The Federal Reserve, never mentioned. Ben Bernanke, not mentioned. He's been displaced. In fact, he's been really in exile. He's been teaching at my former university, George Washington University, for much of the past few months. He's been exiled because, think about it, the guy's extremely unpopular. He's the one helping to inject the heroin so that America overdoses. Now, he might just be the guy, carrying the needle and, poking it in the arm. Obviously, he's being, instructed by other people to do that. But, he's helped the death. And the death has already occurred. This is American suicide at its finest. I don't know how fine that is, but it is American suicide. And it's to the detriment of the American people. So what I see clearly, just like I saw a year and a half ago and 3 years ago, I told you, quantitative easing, it'll never stop. The minute the bank bailout started, it'll never stop. It'll continue into infinity. I told you right after QE1, expect QE2. I told you right after QE2, expect QE3. I told you to expect riots a month before the outburst of Occupy Wall Street, a month before the Arab Spring protests. I told you to watch for false flag events overseas in the Middle East. Obama went in, invaded, killed Muammar Gaddafi. One of our videos, in fact, that'll be one of the classics I'll put up because we predicted that. Predicted the invasion of Libya and the takedown of what they call a dictator in Muammar Gaddafi. Of course, Obama goes into Syria next, complete destabilization. Now we've got sanctions on Iran. Now we're worried about weapons of mass destruction again, nukes. and that's all the talk. That was all the rage of the debates. And so what I'm telling you now, I mean, take it from the guy who's not a copycat. I'm one of the originals here within the movement, within, the liberty and freedom and the cause itself. And that's not to say there's not others out there that are doing a fine, damn good job and have been at this a lot longer than me. But I'm telling you now, take it from a guy that predicted a lot of this stuff, that expect the financial collapse to be completely ushered in as we start the new year. Expect to inherit. You're not going to inherit money. It's not a good thing. You're not going to inherit, some kind of payout. You're not going to inherit, winning some kind of lottery. You're going to inherit massive debt, your children as well, and their children, because it's that large, and you're going to inherit a very violent global war. That's what we have to look forward to, and you know what? That is scary. You can't really beat around the bush there. Stay tuned. I'm going to go to your calls next. Christopher Green, Green Wave Radio Live.